Perfect. Okay, and I guess we'll to not waste any time, we'll hop right in. I'm Reem. I'm a 17-year-old hat clubber from New York City. And Rowan, Echo, if you want to introduce yourself. Oh wait, you're
Oh,
on mute.
sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm professional, I swear. I'm a Rowan or Echo, and I help out with some of the operations at Hack Club, and I'm also helping to co-host this AMA.
Awesome. Cool.
And Samvid.
Hi, I'm Samvid. I'm from Atlanta, and I'm a club leader and also helping out with modding the CMA.
Awesome. Cool to meet you all. Thanks for inviting me.
No, thank you so much for taking the time out of your morning to come speak with us. We're all super excited to learn more about your passion for data security. And I don't want to introduce yourself for you. Would you like to introduce yourself and kick this AMA off?
Yeah, I'm Troy. The funny accent is Australian, so I'm based here in Australia. I'm probably most well known for creating Have I Been Pwned nearly 12 years ago now. As well as that, I do a bunch of speaking events and training and advisory things. And I've been building software for the web for 30 years now. So building it and then breaking it and then trying to repair it. So that's my history.
Mhm. Um, Thank you so much for that introduction. How this is going to work is we're going to start off by asking two introductory questions and then open up the floor to any questions from the audience. If you're in this call, you can use like the little Zoom raise your hand feature, and I will kind of put you in the queue for questions. And for anyone who's speaking, please introduce yourself by sharing your name, your age, where you're from, and if you want, you can turn on your camera, and that'd be great as well.
All right, great. So we're just gonna ask two intro questions to kick it off, and then open it up to the audience to ask their questions. The first question is, what inspired you to start Have I Been Pwned? And did you ever expect it to become as big as it is today? So kind of two questions in one.
Yeah, cool. And hey, everyone can ask me whatever you want too. Like nothing's off limits. So if you've got something you're like, oh, it's a little bit edgy, you're like, cool, make it interesting. I'll answer your second question first. So did I ever expect it to get here? No, I didn't. Otherwise, I wouldn't have given it such a stupid name. And I gave it such a stupid name because it's very hard to get a domain name .com for just about anything. Even 12 years ago, it was hard. It's even harder now. So for me, it was just a bit of fun. And the inspiration for it was I was in the Adobe data breach. And I was in there twice. I was in there once for my work email and once for my personal email. And I thought that was quite strange. So this was 2013, October 2013. Adobe had, I think it was like 150 million people in the breach. And the reason I thought it was strange is because I didn't recall giving my data to Adobe. And to me, Adobe was like Acrobat and Photoshop. And what I probably hadn't realized is that they had acquired Macromedia, and Macromedia made Dreamweaver. And I'd been a big user of Dreamweaver. I'm going to sound really old now, since before you guys were born. So I was using Dreamweaver for web development. Yeah, Macromedia got bought by Adobe, and then my data went to places I didn't expect. And I thought, if this is news for me and I kind of live in this world, like it must be news for a lot of other people as well. I'll create this little lookup site and some of my friends will use it and that will be that. And then it kind of escalated.
No, that sounds great. It's kind of cool that we're kind of big on building personal projects at Hack Club instead of building just projects people can use. And so it's kind of cool to hear how you just started it to see like you wanted to have a project for fun, and then it became this big thing that kind of blew up. Our
Yeah. And
second
hey,
question.
on that, like what you said is really cool. Like do projects for fun. I am surrounded by failed projects and they're really good fun. And I just have one that didn't fail, but I've got so many things before then, particularly in the very early days of the web that never went anywhere. And even today, like my desk is full of like IoT stuff and 3D printing stuff and all sorts of things that will never make me any money and they'll just consume time. But it's fun, right? And you just learn a lot by having fun.
Yeah. by building, breaking things, learning from your
Yeah,
failures.
totally. Like make mistakes. And the cool thing is, like imagine if you're a doctor, right? And you're like, oh, I just want to go and practice and make mistakes. No, you can't do that when you're a doctor. But when you work in our industry, you can muck around, you can experiment, you can have stuff fail. And yeah, when you're doing these pet projects like this, there's no downside to that.
Absolutely. Our second question was uh, I know you talked a little bit about the Adobe data breach. What was the most interesting data breach that you learned about? Okay.
uh, I would answer this differently for a room full of adults. So let me let me answer it like this. I have all these really, really fun talks in mind, which are totally inappropriate for online. Um, I think maybe the most interesting one that many of you probably would have heard of, and it's a little bit adult, but it's mainstream, was Ashley Madison. So Ashley Madison was the website that was breached just over 10 years ago now. It was July 2015. And that was the website that was designed for people to have affairs. And it was already a very, very well-known website because of the fact that it was very open about adultery, which has obviously got like a massive social stigma to it. And then they got breached, and more than 30 million people were in that breach. And what made it particularly interesting is I think it was at a time where we weren't as privacy conscious as now, and the data replicated very, very quickly. It was torrented really extensively after it was breached. A lot of different websites emerged which stood up search sites. So you could search to see if there were people that you knew in the data breach. And it got so much mainstream media traction. I don't think we've ever seen another data breach that's been in the mainstream media as much. It was on TV shows and radio shows, and people were calling in, and the radio host would like literally look up their husband, for example, on one of these search sites to see if they were part of this breach. So it was a really, really big news story. Even in the last couple of years, I've been in documentaries about it because it's like it was on Netflix and Hulu, right? Literally making documentaries about this data breach from 10 years ago. And it also had very serious social ramifications because there were multiple people that took their lives as a result of the personal damage that was done to them. So I think it's probably the most complex from a sort of social perspective. It was obviously a really severe hack. It wasn't just the database, it was also the web application files, or also email spools. I mean, they got very pwned. An absolute disaster, and it's still in the news today.
I actually found out about you from watching a video that was talking about data breaches, and Ashley Madison was one of them. But I actually found out you were in a clip with this teddy bear that leaked, this children's teddy bear, and you were
Ah,
speaking
yeah, Cloud
about
Pets.
yeah,
Yeah.
cloud pets, yeah. And then that's where I was like, oh, I should reach out. So
All right,
that's actually
I'll
kind of
tell you.
hilarious.
I'll tell you a fun story about that. Well, as fun as it can be. So, if people are not familiar with cloud pets, I don't think they exist anymore, which is good. But cloud pets were like a normal sized teddy bear, but it was like an IoT teddy bear. So, it had a microphone in it, it had a speaker in it, and it had a paw, and you could press the button on the paw, and you could Bluetooth pair it to your device, and you could record a message. So let's say you're a child, right? Like a little child. You're recording a message in there for your parents who are working late, or your grandparents. Yeah, let's say you're 5 years old. You're recording it into the teddy bear. The message goes up into the cloud, and then there's like a companion app, and someone gets a notification, and the message comes down, and you listen to it, and then it can go the other way as well, and the little thing on the heart on the teddy bear lights up to show you got a new message, and it can play the message. Um, and that just sounds like right from the outset, it sounds like there's going to be problems. And someone got in touch with me, and I'm going to look it up now. I feel like this was around about 8 years ago. I'm sure I had Cloud Pets. Someone got in touch with me and said, "Here's all the data." Hey, look at that, 2017. It was 8 years ago. They said, "Here's all the data," and I went through and verified it. And I was in the US at the time doing a workshop, and I was talking to the students in my workshop about it. And I was like, "Hey, look, I'll show you how I verify data breach. Here's how it is." And then someone in the workshop was like, "Oh man, like I've got a Cloud Pets account." I was like, "No way, really?" It's like, "Yeah, let's look it up." And this person's record was there. And that was part of the way I verified it. It was like this guy literally had his record in the Cloud Pets data. And long and short, it was, lots of email addresses and all the usual thing, but the recorded messages from people were in exposed Amazon S3 buckets as well. So that was really bad. And then some people from, I think it was from Pen Test Partners in the UK, one of the pen testing firms, found just like complete lack of Bluetooth auth as well. So you could just pair to any kid's teddy bear, like park outside their house and send weird voice messages to them, which was kind of scary too.
No, that's exactly where the documentary, like someone took a clip of you speaking and put it in a YouTube video. So it's kind of hilarious.
Wild, isn't it?
That no, well, sad about the data, but yeah. All right. I think your camera might have turned off. I don't know if that was
Oh.
intentional.
No, it
But
wasn't intentional. What happened there? Oh, oh well, it's literally stopped sending. Oh, here we go. We're back.
yeah.
Hack
Um,
Club
Gotcha.
Productions.
Hackle Productions always, even the best of programmers. And we'll open the audience or open the floor up to, oh, we already have a few hands. Questions from the audience. We're just going to go in order. So, Deployer, Tom, if you want to start.
So like if you were in our position like right now, like young
Oh, wait,
people.
wait, wait. Sorry, hold up. Would you just introduce yourself,
Oh,
name,
sorry, yeah.
age, and country?
I'm Tom. I just turned 16 like a few days ago. I'm from Germany, a small village in Germany. Yeah. So like if you were in our position right now, like teenagers, uh, into coding a bunch and stuff, what would you advise us to do? Like what kind of tips would you give us? What advice in life would you give us?
All right, cool. And thanks for joining from Germany. I was in Germany a couple of months ago. It was awesome. Had a really good time. Um, I think being interested in this industry, and for context, I have a son who's going to turn 16 in about 6 weeks. So he's probably a similar sort of age to you. And I wish he was doing what you're doing, which is that you're obviously interested in this industry and you're interested enough to spend what I assume is your personal time is here talking to me. I know it's really late in Germany at the moment too, so thanks for joining.
It's 1 a.m. It's not
Uh,
that bad. And it's
yeah,
vacation.
no, it's crazy. That's way past my bedtime. So I think, to the point that Reem made before, having pet projects and things that you can experiment and play with is enormously valuable. And what I really like about this industry, excuse me, is there's so many different things that you can do to be an active part of it. Obviously, this is one of them. If there's local user groups and things in your area, go and be a part of those. Get involved in open source projects, whether that's contributing to other people, starting your own. It's either free or very, very close to free to do just about everything you need to get started today. I mean, have I been pwned? It costs some money now because it's so big, but when I started, it was, I think I figured out it was like the cost of a cup of coffee a day or something like that for what was a really big system even at the time. So just getting in there and doing stuff, and you may not know exactly what it is that you want to do when you finish school, or if you go to university, what you do after that. But if you have a bit of a go at a lot of different things, I think you'll find what sort of suits you. Today, it's really hard to talk about any sort of professional career path without talking about AI as well. And I think there's a lot of hyperbole about AI. There's frankly, a lot of rubbish about AI. But as you've all seen, it's also amazing. And I think a lot of the value for all of you is figuring out like how can you use AI so that you can do productive, wonderful things that you couldn't have done before? And also, how do you make sure that you're not doing the job that AI is going to replace? Because it will obviously replace a lot of jobs. But I was I was actually using AI the other day to ask it questions about how do you compare AI to like the Industrial Revolution. So, in the Industrial Revolution, when you got like mechanical looms and it replaced people who were manually making all the clothes, I imagine that there were a lot of people that were very upset about that because their job would go. So I was asking the AI, I was like, okay, well, what other jobs did it create? And they said, well, it created a lot of manufacturing jobs. It created a lot of jobs for people to maintain the looms. It created jobs for people who were designing them. So it's a shift. And I think in our industry, I do not believe most of what I read about the AI can just create your app now. Most of that is absolute rubbish. I'm pretty sure I've seen some of the AI created apps, and that's creating other opportunities, such as finding flaws in AI created apps. But there is a lot of stuff that we've been doing for years and years and years, which has been repetitive and labor intensive that we no longer need to do. So work out what those things are, use them to help you create stuff that maybe you couldn't have even only just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Definitely, we can see a lot of data breaches and a lot of AI cursor coded apps. So it kind of maybe shows that our jobs won't be taken away for a while. Micah, do you want to go? I saw your hand first in the queue.
Sure. Hi, Troy. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Micah. I'm 17 years old and am from Virginia in the US. What's a OPSEC mistake that you made that you found difficult to correct, and what are some common and avoidable pitfalls you see others making?
I think it depends on how you categorize OPSEC. I mean, in all honesty, I've never been the bad guy in the infosec thing. You know how a lot of people are like, yeah, like I used to write a lot of malware and hack systems, and then I turned good, and I made a good professional career. I never had that, and I think a lot of it was because I was a professional software developer and really only started focusing on infosec pretty much when my son was born, which was 15 years ago or nearly 16 years ago. So I was like in my mid 30s before I started focusing on infosec. So I guess I got a level of maturity and professionalism that maybe had I started focusing on infosec, yeah, in my teenage years, it would have been a different outcome. So from that perspective of OPSEC, I haven't been too concerned. I think an interesting thing with OPSEC is actually understanding what it is that is important in terms of your own operational security. And I'll give you an example of this. I often post photos on social media from my backyard. We live on the water. It looks awesome, like the sun's rising. I'll take this photo and I'll put it on social media. And then someone will DM me and they're like, look, I don't want to seem weird, but I looked at your photo. I looked at the angle of the sun and how high the tide was. And I did all the geometry and I think I can figure out where you live. And I'm like, well, why didn't you just look it up in the phone book? Like, why are you going to so much trouble? Because for me, my physical address is not something that I'm concerned about in terms of my OPSEC. My email address is not. My phone number, not too much. Partly because they're public forms of communication. I'm a public person and I make myself accessible. It might be different for you. Some of you might want to operate under aliases purely for privacy purposes, hopefully not for nefarious purposes. Some of you, yeah, may just want to have a different identity on some of the services that you use. And I think your challenge is to figure out what are the things that you need to actually practice some sort of operational security on, and what are the things that maybe are not the ones to worry about.
No, absolutely. Nico, do you want to go up next?
Hi, I'm Nico. I'm 13 and I'm also from Virginia, USA. I am a new coder and could you maybe say a few things about where to start and where to start in like coding and hacking and stuff? Sure.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I have a 13-year-old daughter as well, and actually we've been doing a lot more 3D printing together lately. So I had all my kids coding when they were very young, but using things, like Scratch and Code.org and Code Combat are some good ones for really young kids. As my kids have got older, we've focused more on things like I think probably one of the easiest, cheapest ways of doing it is to start learning something like Python. We have Windows PCs, so my kids have Visual Studio Code, they have Python, they have a terminal in Visual Studio Code. It's really easy just to write code and run it. What I've started to do is to try and find ways to make it a little bit more interesting. So for my son, who's 15, one of the things I wanted to get him doing was to control some of our home automation with code. So we have connected light switches, and the connected light switches have APIs. So like, okay, well, here's the API documentation. You can make an HTTP GET request to this IP address and this path, and the light will come on. So you need to sit here and write code, and when the code works, you'll see something in real life change over there. And then you need to write code to turn it on. Then you need to write to turn it off. Then you need to write code to toggle the state. So you need to figure out, is it on or is it off? And then write the code to do that. So I think Part of it is obviously choosing the language you want to start with. And then every language has got pretty much the same fundamental constructs, but find something interesting to do with it. Because if you're sitting there writing like, yeah, hello world over and over again, it gets really, really boring. So find fun things to do. Even have a look at what public APIs are out there. There's a lot of APIs that will broadcast things like weather forecasts. Maybe create an API to see if it's going to rain today and start from there and then just build, I don't know, like build things that give you some form of pleasure and don't just feel like work.
No, absolutely. The chat is saying that there's 7 upvotes on your children should join Hat Club. I think we do have a few Australians like here. At least like I know that one person's from Adelaide, but yeah, they should definitely join. It's a super cool community.
Cool. I just
Uh,
realized there's a chat. Now
oh
I'm
yeah.
looking.
Oh, yeah, there is a bunch in Sydney. Oh, 20, wow. And you're from Toronto, right? Yeah, okay, there's like a lot. So they should definitely join our community. Uh, I'll read out one of the questions from the chat. Uh, lemon gravy. Actually, yeah, this is a great question. Just for people who like can't get off mute because it's like 3 a.m. wherever they live. Um, what are your recent personal projects? No matter how small, I'd like to hear it out. Can be hardware, software, anything really.
And this has got like probably zero practical value, but I just spent hours and hours doing this the other day. So we're talking about AI and the fact that there's a lot of stuff that AI can. There's a lot of hyperbole. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of things that overstate what it can do, and then there's some really amazing stuff, and then there's everything in between. So I've been doing since the start of COVID when we got locked down, and it's not that I got bored, but I just felt unfulfilled. I started doing a lot of home automation. So if any of you want to get involved in a really fun project that's really cheap to get started with, Home Assistant is super cool. So there is an open source product called Home Assistant. I think it's certainly one of the top 10 open source products in the world in terms of total number of contributions or something like that. It's home automation. It usually runs on a Raspberry Pi. So if you can get yourself a Raspberry Pi, you can get started with a full home automation suite. And during COVID, I was like, okay, I'm used to traveling all the time. I can't do that. I will find a way to open the garage door with my watch because I wanted to talk to the lady on my watch whose name I can't say if she starts listening. I wanted to talk to her when I'm riding my bike home and say, can you open the carport door? And I just go in. So I got really, really into Home Assistant and home automation. And what I was doing last week is I think it's interesting to find problems to solve with technology. So here's my big life problem. Every Tuesday, so it's Tuesday morning here at the moment, we have to put our rubbish bins out. And every Tuesday there's a red rubbish bin. We put all like the general rubbish in there. And then every second Tuesday, you have to put the yellow rubbish bin out. And the yellow rubbish bin has the recycling. And I wanted to try and have an alert so that if we hadn't put the rubbish bin out the night before, then we'd get an alert like on the watch, and I have Sonos speakers in the house so you can get text to speech and you can get it to talk. So I was like, okay, well, how do you do that? And I'd been thinking about, well, do I put like a proximity sensor on the rubbish bin so I know when it's gone or not? And I realized a better way to do this is that what I can actually do is use the security camera that's pointing in our backyard where the rubbish bins are. I can take a snapshot of the image and I can send it up to ChatGPT's API and I can ask it a question. And the question I'm asking it is, I'll tell you exactly the prompt actually. I'm going to write a blog post about this. So I have a prompt here. It says, look at the image and answer only in JSON with exactly these keys. Bin underscore yellow underscore present. True if a rubbish bin with the yellow red is visible, else false. And then there's one that does red. Do not include any other keys or text. So my human readable written prompt says, look at this image and tell me if there's rubbish bins in the image. And then give me a JSON response with this form. And then all I've got to do is figure out when to trigger it. So I trigger it when there's motion near the rubbish bins, which is really, really super nerdy. And then it gets even nerdier because I realize the camera has got infrared. So when it gets too dark, the camera goes into night mode. And the problem is that when you're in night mode with infrared, you can't see color. It's all black and white. So now I have to trigger it. So when the camera goes from night mode into day mode, then it takes the image, and then it sends it to ChatGPT, and then it comes back with an answer. And then I started getting carried away because I was like, well, what are all the other things I can do in the house now that I can have a photo and AI? So now I already had sensors on our letterbox so that when someone puts a letter in the letterbox, our Sonos speaks and I get an alert on my watch. And now it takes a photo of the person putting the letter in the letterbox, sends it to ChatGPT and comes back and describes it. So I know if it's the postman or if it's someone putting junk mail in the mailbox. And then I did the same thing to the doorbell. So when someone rings the doorbell, now the doorbell rings, there's a chime inside that dings, but then it sends the photo up to AI and then it comes back and it explains it. And then our Sonos says, there's a man in a yellow vest at the doorbell holding a package. And I'm like, okay, cool. So it's the mailman. So I'm just it's like nerdy stuff that wastes way too much time, but I think it's just really good fun. And part of what the reason I think it's actually quite valuable is when I'm doing that, I might have a really good idea about something that's actually useful, but I won't know unless I play with the technology.
That's absolutely amazing. I also wanted to mention, I think your camera turned off again. I'm not sure if
Oh
that's just
man.
Zoom being funny or something like that.
Wow. No, it does actually say it's off. Oh, that's not me.
All right. But
Okay.
another
Tell me if
question
it
we
does it again,
had,
I'll flick it back on.
yeah, another question we had from the audience is, by any chance, do you know Aubrey Collette? They're attributed to being the founder of Anonymous.
Who knows? Who knows? I feel like Anonymous hasn't had as much press lately, but there was a period, particularly probably around 2010, where all the time it was like anonymous this, anonymous that. We are anonymous. We are Legion. We do not forget, and all the rest of it. And everyone would just pop up and go, "We're anonymous." And I think it's just one of these things that probably became a name that's more reflective of a movement than an actual person. And yeah, it's really wild. We've actually heard very little about them, at least compared to back then. And there are other groups then as well, things like Lulsec, which were, I guess, a similar sort of theme, and you know, they come and go.
Are you anonymous?
That's
No.
definitely not me.
He's actually a double agent.
Oh no, wouldn't it? Well, no, it's yeah. I think one of the interesting things is, and I sort of mentioned this before when there was the OPSEC question. There is so much really, really cool opportunity in this industry being the defender rather than effectively being the criminal actor. There's so much cool stuff you can do. And if ever anyone's sort of at that crossroads and they're like, wow, there's this option here, I could break into this site and get all the stuff, or there's option here, I can report it and go down a different path. I've been spending a lot of time with law enforcement agencies around the world talking about, particularly for folks like your age, how do we help you get to that crossroads and make a good decision? And honestly, there is so much cool stuff being above board, and there is so much downside going the other way. If I can, add maybe one good piece of advice to teenagers interested in infosec, it's steer the good path.
No malicious malware, guys. Hack Club does not, it's against the code of conduct. So, um, Elijah, was that like, I know you said it in the chat, was that your question, or do you have like a question that you want to come off of mute for? Oh, that was your question? Okay.
Like I said, yeah.
Um, Great. Okay. Janine, did you have a,
All right, can you hear me?
yeah, just start off by introducing yourself.
So, my name's Jenin. I'm 14 and I live in Canada. And I know you've done projects like Have I Been Pwned and some other like small projects. What's your favorite project apart from Have I Been Pwned? That like, what's your favorite project you ever made?
Um, I think maybe password purgatory. So, look, a lot of the stuff I've made, and I'll explain what it is. A lot of the stuff I've made or the blog posts I've written, I've just done when I'm angry. And I'll explain what I got angry at, right? You all get spam, and I hate getting spam. The reason I started doing the photo thing on my letterbox the other day is on my letterbox I have a sticker. It says no junk mail. And every now and then someone comes and puts junk mail in there. And I have been trying to figure out basically what I want to do is I want to squirt the hose that people put junk mail in the letterbox. Now, I'm trying to figure out, can I use AI to reliably enough detect the difference between someone putting junk mail in there and the postman? Because I don't want to squirt the postman, but I'd really like to squirt the person with the backpack who comes around and just puts the junk mail in there. So a lot of the things I'm doing and writing is because I'm angry at something. And what I was angry about with spam is I will constantly get these really frustrating emails that you guys probably get on time to time as well. And it'll be things like, hey, I just want you to come and like check out our product and buy our thing, or can we guest post on your blog, or yeah, can we be a guest on your podcast, of which I never do. So it's like all this stuff which just consumes my time. And I thought it would be really good fun if I came up with a way to waste the time of the other people who are sending me the spam. So I came up with this idea of password purgatory, where when I get a spam email, I get the spam and I drop it into another folder. And the folder is in my Outlook, and it's called Send Spam at a Password Purgatory. When it gets dropped in there, there's a Microsoft Power Automate job that picks up the email and then it sends an auto reply. And it says, hey, look, we'd really like to work with you. Please go and leave your details in my special login form over here. And it links through to my blog. And there's a login form which asks you to create an account. So you have to put in an email address and create a password. And when you try and put the password in, it's just got these increasingly ridiculous criteria. So when you first put the password in, it'll say something like, it must be at least 8 characters long. And you're like, oh, okay, well, we get that all the time. And then it starts saying stuff like, your password must have an even number of letters in it. Your password must contain one of the seasons of the year. Your password must contain the word dog. And it just keeps going and going and going, and it records every single password that they try and enter. I don't record the email address, I just record the passwords. And then I get an email notification afterwards saying, hey, a spammer has just been putting their password in. And then I share it online. So if you go to X and you look for hashtag password purgatory, you'll see all of the tweets I've put out there about people wasting their time trying to solve these ridiculous password criteria. And then I put how many minutes of their time I wasted as well. I feel good about that project. I think that's a bit of retribution.
The chat's asking, was
Okay,
it done
found it.
before
There we go.
Neil.fun? No, was it done before their password game?
What was that, Rem?
Was it done? Oh, the chat's asking if it was done before the Neil.fun password
Yes,
game.
yes,
Yeah.
it was because I then saw that people kept directing me to that one. They're like, "Hey, look at this!" Like, man, that's my thing.
That's your project. Yeah.
Which is fine. The more time we all waste of people's time is great.
Is there a way to crack the combo?
No, it's impossible to
Oh.
solve, and it's all open source too. So all that code, we're talking before about contribute to open source. All that code is on GitHub. You can go and have a look at it. You can submit PRs. I think there's actually impossible criteria where some criteria cancels out the other criteria and vice versa. Yeah, but no, it's really good fun.
No, that's sick. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And thanks, Echo, for
There you go.
the
Echo's
GitHub
gone.
repo. Yeah. Um, Next up, Isha. If I'm saying,
Can you hear me?
yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Isha. I'm 16 years old and I'm from New York in the US. So this is a bit of a weirder question, not much related to coding, but I just finished up a cybersecurity and cryptography course, and I've become way more paranoid about where I like give my emails or like anywhere I enter my number or anything. Is there like a period of time or currently if you were like paranoid after you create Have I Been Pwned?
Well, I think it's a little bit like my answer to the OPSEC question before, where maybe what is actually more useful for you rather than being paranoid about where you put your data is to think about what degree of privacy does each class of data require. Now, I'll give you a good example. Obviously, Have I Been Pwned is full of email addresses. We've got I think it's about 6 billion email addresses in there. And then each email address has been in about 2.5 breaches, which is why we've got 15 billion records. And very often I've had people say, I'm very upset that there's been a data breach and my email address has been exposed. My email address is private. I don't give it to anyone. And I'm like, well, how do you get email? By its very nature, you have to if you don't ever give your email address to anyone, it doesn't work. Like that's the way the thing works. And it's the same with phone number. And I would argue that it's very easy to get a bit too paranoid about the security. I'll rephrase that because it's not security, about the privacy of your email address. In the same way that sometimes people say, well, my email address has been in a data breach. Should I change it? It's like, well, no, because it's probably been in other data breaches you don't know about. And when you get a new one, that will be in data breaches as well. What is the problem that you're trying to solve? I think I think there's a bit of an issue in terms of are there certain personal circumstances which require you to keep that out of the public domain or keep it extra private? Are you is someone directing online abuse at you, for example? That's a little bit of a different story then. But for the most part, most email addresses are discoverable one way or another. Just before I did this call, we're having some work done on our house, which has gone very, very badly. And I'm trying to contact the CEO of the company. And he obviously had decided not to publish his email address anywhere, and it found me a few minutes, or took me a few minutes to find it. So your information will be discoverable. I think what you need to consider is what degree of privacy, given your personal circumstances, actually makes a difference for each class of data.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Definitely. I think I know exactly what course he's talking about because I took that exact same course, the Girls Who Code, cybersecurity and cryptography, and it definitely made me more paranoid. But yeah, definitely will assess how public I am and go from there. Birdie, I think Birdie, you're next up if you'd like to come up and mute.
Hi, my name is Elliot. I'm 14 and I live in Tennessee. My question is, what is one of the biggest threats to online safety right now?
AI, probably AI. I don't know. It might actually be AI. I think that's part of the concern. And I guess maybe to answer the question more seriously, I think it sort of depends on how you define safety as well. It's a little bit like, how do you define trust? For a long period of time there, people defined trust in a website by the presence of a padlock. If the website had HTTPS, that's trustworthy, which is not what it ever meant. And now we've sort of readjusted that. I think online safety, again, is contextual. I worry very much about other people accessing my accounts. So what's the biggest threat to other people accessing my accounts? Probably password reuse, lack of multi-factor authentication, and falling for phishing attacks, which I have done in the past. But I also feel that the bar to not being a victim of these attacks is not particularly high. Just before this call, I've been getting a lot of emails from a crypto wallet service that I don't use, with someone trying to access an account that I don't have there. Now, if I did have an account there, it would be protected with a U2F key that I would physically have to have on my person in order to access it. So when I see stuff like this, I just don't worry as much about it. But I think, honestly, that is probably the biggest threat to safety in the way that we think about it. And then there are all these sort of secondary factors around what's the impact to things like our privacy or the impact to even our ability just to disconnect and live lives that don't depend on us always, being attached to the phone.
No, absolutely. Bhavika, if I'm pronouncing it right.
Am I audible?
It's a little bit far away.
Am I
Audio.
audible?
Try and say your question, and we can see if we can hear it out.
Hello, sir. I'm Bhavika. I'm 17 years old, and I'm a beginner in cybersecurity. Even though I'm just starting out, I'm already dreaming about building my own cybersecurity company in the future. So, if you were 17 today with this goal, how would you start preparing and what would you focus on first?
Yeah,
Did you
cool.
hear
I
the
heard.
question, or
Yep, I heard that.
okay, perfect.
I think it's a little bit like one of the earlier questions around, what things should you do now? I think the earlier question was from someone who's 17 as well. Maybe it was from Echo. I can't recall. But yeah, I guess to use my example of things like password purgatory and making it open source, go and do stuff like that. One of the very, very first blog post I ever wrote, and I think it was about 3 weeks before my son was born. So it was October 2009, probably September 2009. The very first blog post I ever wrote was, and Echo will find this before I even finish the sentence, uh, why online identities are smart career moves. And I wrote this because I was hiring people when I had my normal office job. I used to work for Pfizer, and I'd be hiring people, and I'd try and
Cam,
find
wait,
information.
Cam out, the camera.
Oh, Cam's good. You know, I
Yeah.
did actually pin it so I can see that now when it goes out. I don't know what does that. Maybe I'll blame Zoom. I've actually got a DSLR that's here, which is why the picture's
Oh, that's
really
why it's
clear.
so good. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
like,
well, when
oh,
it works,
wow.
right? It's good. But I can see on the lens if the camera drops off, if it goes, like if it runs out of power or something, and that's fine. So I'm blaming Zoom for this. But yeah, just seeing Jen and saying DSLR for Zoom is crazy work. I've got a blog post somewhere about that as well. Echo will find it. But I got this camera at the start of COVID when it was like, I'm going to have to be home a lot. Let's make my office space here. Let's make it look cool. Let's make the picture really clear, and then at least I can be more productive from home. Yeah, so the bit about doing things that you can put in the open source domain, the bit about online identities being smart career moves. Every time I'd interview people, they'd send in their CV, and you'd read their CV, and everything was awesome. It's like every CV you read, everyone's like, yeah, like I'm totally awesome, man. I can do all of these different things. And then you'd say, well, how do I know? Like you say you're awesome, but are you awesome? And then they go, well, you can speak to my references. And I go, well, but you chose them. You're only going to choose people who say nice things about you. And what I found is that this was a time when things like Stack Overflow were really, really popular. I was like, I can't find any reference of you ever asking a question, ever answering a question. I can't see any open source contributions. I can't see anything to back up what you're saying. I think that there is value in creating an online identity, and that's the link that Echo shared just before. So I started creating that online identity. So that then gave me so much more later on in life as I built out my career. So at 17, if you can start doing stuff like that and showing just a history of being involved and being interested, even by virtue of being parts of clubs like this as well. At some point in time, whether it's next year or 5 years from now, or even 10 years from now, someone's going to look at your CV and then they're going to look at what they can find online and go, wow, this person really has been doing all of these things. And they have been actively involved and they've been interested in these topics. They're not just making it up. And that might be the thing that if you do want to start a cybersecurity business, that might be the thing that opens doors for you. You might have a meeting with a potential client and then they go and look you up and they're like, yeah, well, she's telling the truth. I can find all this history on her.
Okay, you can just go ahead.
I'm just, oh wait, but think over like half a year ago now, I did my first security bounty for Coinbase and finally got a bounty payout. So I wanted to ask, have you ever done any kind of security research in the realm of bug bounties? If so, what has been your most interesting case?
Well, I think first of all, that's awesome that you got a bug bounty, particularly for Coinbase, because there's obviously a lot of people looking at Coinbase, and there's a lot of very, very smart people at Coinbase as well. I have been into their offices in San Francisco before, and they're, yeah, super, super cool, smart people. So I've never got involved in looking for bounties myself. I've actually done some courses on bug bounties. A good friend of mine is the guy that started BugCrowd. He's a guy called Casey Ellis. So BugCrowd and HackerOne are probably the two most well-known bug bounty programs. I think what's sort of interesting is that for these bounty programs, because they do sort of democratize bug hunting, and you can be anywhere in the world with any amount of experience and any amount of capability, and you can go and look for bugs and do it legally and get paid for it. Because of that, there's a lot of people looking. So this is why I'm extra impressed. Okay, that you managed to found that in that service. Um, because of that, I think particularly for people who are maybe further down in their career, particularly for people from parts of the world where they could go out and earn good money in InfoSec, you do get a lot of other people from other parts of the world for whom that money means a lot more or where their local opportunities are less, which I think is good for the industry because it means that, we get a lot more eyes looking for bugs. But it just means it makes less sense for people like me to go out and try and find that stuff. I think also for me personally, it's partly recognizing, what do I do well and what do others do well, and frankly, other people are going to do a much better job of looking for bugs. And the bit that I do well is I do a lot of speaking and engagement and meetings, which seems to go pretty well. So yeah, but good on you for finding that in Coinbase too. That's wild.
Do you want to talk a little
Yeah.
bit about the Hack Club security bounty program that like
Oh
V2
yes, that
dropped?
that beloved thing. Actually, after coming off of that, we had someone post about how Hack Club has been somewhat negligent of security practices before, and we've been stung a few times because of it. But I just cold called Zach one day and said like, "Hey, wouldn't it be awesome if we had a security bug bounty and I'd volunteer to lead it?" And now I help triage bug reports, and I've got to see now the other side of how do we coordinate teams and like actually patching exploits and also all the other not so legitimate reports we get where like various debug scanners, AI outputs with no
Yeah.
impact. It's been fun seeing behind the curtain on that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you'll I know you'll post the link for this, Echo, but I wrote something years ago about beg bounties. So I think what you're referring to is like beg bounties, where people run automated tools over your site, and then they come back and they go, "Oh, I found this really bad security vulnerability. Do you have a bug bounty?" And my security.txt file has a link through to the link that Echo just posted about beg bounties. Actually, Ian beat you to that. You're slipping,
Yeah.
Echo.
I
Slipping.
know, I was caught lacking.
uh, but yeah, unfortunately, it's interesting you say seeing it from the other side. For corporates, the big challenge for them is how do they be receptive to people submitting reports about security? And then how do they then separate all of the rubbish that comes through from the actual good stuff? It's a signal to noise ratio problem. And that one of the things that got me quite upset, I told you I write blog posts when I get upset, right? So one of the reasons I got quite upset and wrote that blog post is I have a lot of trouble disclosing not just security vulnerabilities, but really serious data breaches to companies. And I think that part of the reason I have that trouble, where I just simply don't even get answered, is that because they get so much rubbish from beg bounties and so much noise, it's very hard for them to focus on the things that are actually serious. I loaded a data breach. I want to say it was late. It was probably about 1 month ago, called Creams Cafe. So it's on Have I Been Pwned, Creams Cafe. I tried for weeks to disclose that to that company. I tried all their public contact details, all their social media. I then went through LinkedIn. I found developers and stuff there. I then went to Twitter and I was publicly like, does anyone have a security contact at Creams Cafe? And everybody knows what it means when I ask for a security contact. Nothing. And then eventually I loaded the data and they got in touch with me and they're like, all right, so did you try to get in touch with us? And I'm like, yep, here, 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 and here. And you never replied. Now here we are. You'll see probably two more data breaches this week that are the same, where I've been trying for weeks and weeks and weeks. And one of them is 1.1 million records as well. And it's a real breach and it's going to go out there. So that kind of sucks. And
Do
the
you think it
beg
was?
bounty.
Oh, I
Go,
was just
sorry,
gonna say,
Ringo.
was it the same like with Cloudpets? Like you just kept reaching out and saying that you had this, or you had so much data, and then just no response from these companies.
Well, in the Cloud Pets one, I think I've got a screen grab of the tweet in that blog post, which is throughout the comment thread there. There was a reporter who was trying to contact Cloud Pets about it, and they ignored him. And then afterwards, the CEO, I think the CEO's comment was, "We did have contact from a reporter, but you don't reply to some random person about a security vulnerability." I was like, "Yeah, like it's random people that find your security vulnerabilities. Like that is the whole point." So yeah, don't it's and to go back to the point Echo made, like this is the trouble. Like, how do you how do you ignore all the noise but then reply to the right people? Because it's a time consuming problem.
Yeah, it's been interesting trying to find that balance of because I've been trying to treat every report with the sincerity it gets, but then there's times
Mm.
where we just have to go down rabbit holes where like where we ask the reporter like, so where's the actual impact there? And we had this funny case where someone submitted a AI written report, and then we say like, okay, so can you like exactly point out where is the impact? And then they pasted their entire AI written report into like ChatGPT or some other AI, asked it to summarize it, and then we found on each of the points they were
Oh.
total nothing burgers. And then when confronted about it, there's like, oh, it's like some automated testing tool. Like, oh, and there goes 2 hours of our lives.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's painful, but maybe the hope is if we as the good guys get to use AI to figure out the AI generated reports and just bin them straight away, so long as we can do it reliably.
Yeah, it's the trouble is just finding how can we adjust that because I know Ian can probably speak with more experience because he also handles the security reports for HCB, which holds like millions of dollars right now. So that they're like really uptight about security reports, and they also get completely rubbish reports as well. So
Yep.
it's kind of cool though, at least like when you do get, well, I don't want to say gem gold because when you hit gold for security breaches, it means that there is an issue and a vulnerability.
Mm.
But when you do find out that there's an actual security breach, like it's like we have tiers of payouts and it all goes to like 13 to 18 year olds and it's and it comes out of the events we've run like the most recent event we ran was a hackathon on an island. And if there's a security problem there, that payout, that like $300 that goes to whoever found the breach, goes to the team that found out the issue. So it comes out of our budget. So it kind of makes us be a little bit more uptight about security and makes us think with a kind of security first approach, which is yeah, a lot of people
I
were
think
on the island.
the maybe the thing to think about as well for anyone else looking for bugs too, if there is not a published bug bounty, I think, and I know not everyone agrees, but I think asking for money is quite unprofessional.
Yeah.
I think it sends a very bad message if you reach out to a company, even if you found something serious, if you reach out and say, I've got something, if you give me money, I'll tell you. Like that's going to get them on the back foot. I had someone report a what they thought was a vulnerability. This is about 3 weeks ago. I think I talked about it in my weekly video, but they said, "Look, I've found this really serious thing." Reading the message, I could tell that the message was AI generated, but it was very specific to my particular circumstance. But anyway, the guy's like, "Look, this is really serious. It's worth $30,000." Just like, whoa, whoa, this isn't misconfigured SPF. And it turned out that we use a bunch of anti-automation. Have I been pwned? We use Cloudflare's turnstile. It's not perfect. We know it's not perfect. We're trying to sort of keep out the bots, let in the humans. We don't get each right 100% of the time, or Cloudflare doesn't get each right 100% of the time. And he basically found that sometimes, particularly if he was using Selenium, which is a browser emulator, and Selenium is very good at making a browser look like a real human. And the particular vector he went through, he was able to get some requests through anti-automation that had really no impact, but he wanted 30,000. And I went back and I was like, this is really unprofessional. This is a really bad look. Because he'd said, he's just graduated and he's trying to earn money. I was like, mate, this is not the way to do it. And then suddenly he started replying without AI and the language was really, really different and he felt really, really sorry. So just don't do that in the first place. Now, hey guys, I've got 5 minutes left and then I do have to go to
Yeah.
another meeting.
So we'll just last question is Elijah's just from the queue. If you want to make it quick. Or oh, you put it in the chat. Thoughts on that link geospy.ai? I've seen law enforcement using it where they can reverse image search to find addresses, even using photos inside of houses.
Wow.
I don't know if you're
So,
familiar with the service.
no, I'm just looking at it now. Maybe this shows that I'm more sort of technologist than security person, but my first thought was that's cool. Like that's really amazing, right? But this is kind of the crazy thing where very often the intersection between like cool technology and privacy is contradictory, where it's like that is wild, or if you have the meta glasses that you hack to do facial recognition, so when you walk around you can see everyone's face and you can actually see their name. Like that's really cool. My God, that's scary. And these two things kind of coincide. Yeah, that's okay. I'm gonna have a good look at this later on. I'll try this with some photos of my house and see if we can figure it out.
I guess Carlos, if you could make your question quick. Uh, Let me see if you're able to.
Carlos, your mic is muted, by the way.
Okay. Oh, it's 2 a.m.
It's
here. Are you
2
gonna
a.m.
type?
here.
Oh, you're gonna type it in the chat quickly.
Yeah, just type it.
Yeah, quickly. Yeah, no, you should definitely have your kids join Hack Club. We love to see them around in the community. And we say Hack Club, but we're for professional purposes, not for anything
Yeah.
malicious. Oh, cloud. Do
I
you
get
use
that.
cloud for enterprise? Probably, yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, I use Cloud for a lot of things, and Cloudflare gives us some services for free as well. So, for example, Pwned passwords. So, the service we have to check whether a password's been a data breach. We have, let's see how many queries it is now. It's more than 16 billion queries a month. They provide us enterprise services for free, and then we make all that open source and just give it away. They give us some resources for Have I Been Pwned as well. But then there's a lot of other things where I just use Cloudflare's free services. Like my blog is Cloudflare's free services. Password Purgatory is Cloudflare's free services. So yeah, Cloudflare's pretty awesome that way. And maybe the last question here, just seeing Dimdin's one. How old did you start programming? Probably late compared to you guys. I guess, taking a big interest in computers when I was probably about 14. So I moved to the Netherlands from Australia, and I lived there for 2 years. And it's probably a little bit like Tom from Germany, where the weather's not great there a lot of the time. So I spent a lot of time inside, just gaming, mucking around, and then I moved to Singapore when I was 16, which was like 1992, and that was a very, very high tech place compared to the rest of the world. And I got a part-time job with a satellite systems company. And I didn't really start programming until I went to university at 18. But I guess I was more interested in the hardware before then. And then I guess yeah, since that time it's gone on from there. Yeah, mostly around Microsoft technologies, but a lot of other things as well. And here we are.
Yeah, that's a great ending. Kind of going back to where you started. Yeah, just for the sake of time, we kind of at the end of our AMAs and even at our like weekly meetings that we have, our HQ is based in Vermont. We do a 3, 2, 1 hack. And then is it okay if we do one, if you guys can't turn on your camera, like do a reaction or something, and take a screenshot just so we can share it, in the community?
Go for it.
Okay, all right. You guys, I'll just kick it off. Wait, make sure you're taking screenshots. I'm not. One of you guys.
Here, I'll take the
Thank you
screenshot.
so much. All right. Is everyone ready? Yay. Okay. Glad to see all your faces. Okay. 3, 2, 1, hack.
Ah,
Yay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Hunt, for taking the time to chat with us. I'm sure everyone left here with something invaluable. I'm gonna go toy around with my Raspberry Pi now that I just got and try and make my own home assistant. We really
Good.
appreciate it. And we hope to see your kids around around in the community. Thanks so much, everyone in the
Awesome.
chat.
Thank you all.
Thank you so
Thank
much. We
you.
really
Have a
appreciate it.
great
Cheers.
or morning,
Thank you so
it's not
much.
night.
All good.